morning, namaste, vanakkam, and really happy to be here at this galaxy of mutual fund distributors. Extremely happy to know that this is the 15th year in which you're all, have been an active part of this association. And perhaps one of the most important segments of the supply chain of this product. Since we started this program this morning with invocation, a very beautiful invocation by a person, she really was so evocative of that, the spirit in which this whole event is being organized. And when we're looking at a vision for 2035, we really started with Vidya. Her name is also Vidya. And that kind of provoked me, especially when it was followed up by Satya's Sanskrit and very impressive Munod's shlokas. And suddenly a flash from my school days did come to me. And I quickly tried to go to the net to recall the entire shlok. And it was amazing that sometimes, I think I have a very bad memory, but when I was trying to remember the shloka, all the words came back to me. Vidya dadati vinayam, vinayad yati patratam, patratyam dhanam apnoti, dhanad dharmam tatas sukham. Knowledge makes one humble. Humility begets worthiness. Worthiness creates wealth and enrichment. Enrichment leads to right conduct. And right conduct brings contentment. How very appropriate for this forum. Every word of this has got full of meaning. Knowledge makes one humble. Humility begets worthiness. Worthiness creates wealth and enrichment. Enrichment leads to right conduct, and right conduct brings contentment. So if we want the average citizen of this country, to partake in India's growth story, and we talk about inclusivity, we talk about spreading the benefits of growth, we talk about inequality, we talk about iniquity, but I think a very important way in which the story of India's growth should not be one of benefiting the haves and not the have-nots. And I think this is one way in which I feel the growth of this country, the prosperity that has come, is something that can be really distributed through mutual fund distributors, provided you earn the trust, maintain the trust, enhance the trust. And was it Ramesh or was it Suresh who really brought the entire village, fishing village, along with him to share in the mutual prosperity that he himself got because of elevating his own knowledge, his own technology, his own outreach, to be able to understand the ecosystem, and he was understanding the biodiversity, and he was understanding his own habitat, and getting the advantage of that fishing and spreading it. So I thought it was a very beautiful start to this event today, and every speaker after that, I would say, has really focused on the trust. And Navneet, of course, is a brilliant speaker. I've heard him many times, and he has, as usual, not let us down. He's really lived up, at least to my expectation, of what I really was looking forward from him. And he did bring in all the aspects of trust, the track record, the transparency, the technology, training and trust, and coming back to trust, starting with trust and coming back to trust. And I'm very glad Amit did not shirk from bringing out the concerns of the regulator. And there's always this, having been a regulator for such a long part of my life, and working with the system to improve the system, at the same time not letting it run away. So you have to sort of, like a child, I think it was described as throwing up the child, and you have to hold it and catch it and see that the child doesn't damage. Similarly, when you're talking in terms of banking, or banking again is a matter of huge trust. It is the trust a depositor is placing in the bank. And I can't but help recalling a story of what Dr. Reddy, the former governor, when I was looking after banking supervision, told me. He was saying, now, how do we go about this fit and proper? How do we go about this fit and proper? Who is a fit and proper person? Can you define? How do you assess the fit and proper person can run a bank? And I would say the same thing for a mutual fund. Who is a fit and proper person to run an asset management company or a mutual fund distributor? Why? Because you are entrusting your wealth in the hands of that person. So he was saying, and of course, I should be pardoned if I'm sort of assuming a certain gender bias when I'm talking about this, because he was giving me the example of your daughter, and how do you look for a good groom, a suitable person for your daughter? What do you do? Any volunteers? What is the first thing that you will try to do? So you'll find out about the boy's family, about their track record, about how they are in society, about their financial capability. Are they going to be able to look after your daughter in the manner that she is used to? Are they going to see that she's protected and she can be, that this will be an environment in which she can grow? He says the depositor is for us like a daughter. We are putting that trust in an organization which is taking public funds and then using it to the best return for the depositor or the investor in this case. So it is the same kind of criteria. So to me, ultimately, it comes back to that fiduciary relationship. A fiduciary, it's a trusted relationship, which is there, whether it's a mutual fund or it's a bank deposit. Bank deposits are very different, of course, because banks are highly leveraged organization. For every rupee you collect, you create money, which other financial institutions don't do, because you create credit creates more deposits. So the original savings you put in a bank gets multiplied several times. So the level of trust or the level of impact if something happens to a bank is multiple times that in any other financial institution. But at the same time, mutual funds are the vehicle where we are going to be able to really spread the benefits of growth of the country and of the company. And that's why I liked it when Navneet talked about the long term. We cannot be sitting and talking here about quarterly results and what's happened this year and what's happening next year. We have to look at the big picture. And I think that is really what I would like to focus on today. A recent speech by Anant Narayan, the whole-time member of SEBI, gave some data, and some of this data I think even Navneet shared. I mean, his whiz for remembering number is something amazing. But interesting point that Anant made was, during the 6 years between FY15 and FY20, the net risk-oriented investor flows into mutual fund schemes, excluding the debt funds, averaged around 1.4 lakh crores per year. After COVID-19, during the 3 years between 22 and 24, it went to 3 lakh crores on average per year, a tripling. And in the current year, even in the 9 months until December, it has hit a record of 4.8 lakh crores. So this is a phenomenon. That means by March, we probably in this year would be at 6 lakh crores. So it is 30% over the incremental time deposits booked by banks during the same period. There have been a number of reasons for this phenomenon. The post-COVID growth, the post-COVID recovery in growth, the ample liquidity has pushed up stock markets to new highs. Savings in household hands increased during COVID, and online investing triggered by digital platforms allowed the entry of investors from all walks of life to partake in the markets. Benign inflation, low interest rates on bank deposits were also a factor, apart from the tax regime, which actually encourages equity investing. The regulatory ecosystem, the various measures to instill investor confidence post March 20 have also been very important factors. And I have been a part of the SEBI Mutual Funds Advisory Committee since 2020, and it has been a very rewarding experience for me to see the level of engagement, discussions, and dialogue that happens in these committees. And SEBI is really to be congratulated for its efforts to bring in the right kind of regulatory sphere without stifling the markets. And there will always be a tension. There'll always be a tension between the regulators and the regulated. And in this, the AMFI, and I must congratulate the AMFI because they have played a very, very important role in bringing about a realistic approach to regulation. Sometimes it is possible to overreact as a regulator because some crisis happens and then all a regulator wants is not to be blamed and all a regulator wants is not such a thing to happen again. So one tends to overstep. But then there has to be a moderating hand because you cannot kill the goose that lays the golden eggs. So it's very important to have that right balance between regulation and growth, regulation, stability and efficiency, if you want to put it like that. Stability is the objective for a regulator. Efficiency is the objective for growth. So while both are important, it's just like Reserve Bank, inflation. You want stability and you want growth. So how do we achieve that kind of a balance? It becomes very often the toughest part to do. So it has been, there have been, events in the markets which have required the regulators to take certain actions, but at the same time, the feedback, and again, you have to, if you trust your regulated and you are listening to them with an open ear, with a very free and frank exchange, but not letting it go overboard, not letting the enthusiasm, the growth enthusiasm take the, overpower the regulated. I think that is very, very difficult balance for a regulator to achieve. And I think the mutual fund industry in the last 5 years, the kind of growth it has shown, there have been a lot of other facilitating factors, but I must say that this is also a very, very important one. We've talked about how the assets under management have gone by such a large number of time, how the number of unique investors have gone, and how SIPs have really been a very, very important part of this growth, and how much is now coming by the distributors in the B30. So, and also the fact that 74% of the investors' AUM is through the distribution model. So the very important role that mutual fund distributors are playing in this whole spreading of the wealth of India and India's corporates with the public. But like Navneet said, it is time that we have to take a stock because what we have seen this year is a very sobering pause in the in the run-up which we've seen in the last 5 years. There is slowing growth. All the signs are there already. And there is inflation, higher inflation globally and in India. The kind of low interest rates and liquidity we saw, say, from 2020 to 2023, is not to be taken for granted. The growth in employment has slowed down. In India particularly, you find that there is more of market being supported by borrowing, and therefore the net savings in the financial system has actually gone down. So this is one of the things that in India we will see. We will see that the savings, overall savings ratio has gone down, and we have always been supported by foreign savings. And if foreign savings are also going to be not drying up, but not coming to the extent they have been coming in the past, it becomes even more important for mutual fund industry to really increase the total savings in the country. and the share of mutual funds so that that increase in savings is distributed better. I think that is the real single message that I want to. I didn't realize that it was already time, so let me start. So this slide shows you the gross savings in India as a percentage of GDP. So you'll find gross savings is just about 30%, less than 30%, which is very much lower compared to the 35% we used to have. And of that, household savings has been actually coming down. So the household savings as a percentage of GDP, total savings as a percentage of GDP was 30%, and household savings is 18.2. And mind you, this 2024 data on savings of 18.2 is a drop of 4% nearly since 21. So although we say assets management has increased, everything else has increased, it's not actually a fact that household savings have increased. And if you look at the next slide, you'll find that this as percentage of GDP is actually the net financial assets of households. So the financial assets of households have increased, but the financial liabilities of households, borrowing has also increased. So the net financial assets of households have actually reduced. So the share of the mutual funds in the financial, as a percentage of GDP, but if you look at this chart, it's the deposits, the life insurance funds, the provident funds, so on and so forth. So the mutual funds share, as a share of financial assets, rose from 0.6% to 0.8%, and in the same period, the share of deposits has increased from 3.5 to 4.7. So the fact brings out that mutual funds have grown by leaps and bounds, but their share in the total financial assets is still very small. So I think this particular, of course, the share of people directly investing equity in the market is small, and the share of currency has reduced. But the share of mutual funds, and mind you, this is not a share of the savings, this is the share of the GDP. So I think this simply brings me to one point, which is that we must realize that we can congratulate ourselves on the 66 lakh crores and so on. But there is a time now that we have to stock take and really increase the penetration. So when somebody said we must have 5 lakh distributors, I think it's absolutely right. And when Navneet said that we must have more offices of the AMCs in the tier 2, tier 3 cities. And I have been living in a tier 2 city for the last 5 years, and I know the interest in markets in these cities, and I know the potential for growth. It's a small place called Kolhapur. Kolhapur is south of Bombay, famous for the Mahalakshmi temple. But you'll be amazed to know the wealth that is there in that hinterland in Kolhapur, and the potential for growth. But what people are really worried about is, of course, mutual funds are subject to risk, and we always sell it like that. But there is a little anxiety when everybody who's selling this product to me keeps on saying it's subject to risk. What does it mean? So I think that's where the education really comes in. Take that 30-year track record and show it. Show it to your investors who are looking at track record. Say, in the worst times, what happened? Look at those 3 episodes of worst times. Then what happened? So show the products, show the results, make them understand about return and risk. We don't really publish our betas as much as we publish our growth returns. What is performance versus benchmarks? Who understands benchmarks? Nobody does. So I think the very, very important role of organizations such as this, like the IFA, to educate the investor, whether it is face-to-face or whether it is over Zoom, whatever way, has to be very important in terms of this investor education. And I think that is really, and earning the trust. I have seen so many people who come to me, and I'm going to take 2 minutes more if you don't mind. So many people who come to me saying that we've been taken for a ride. Ratan Tata, Sudha Murthy, Narayan Murthy was selling some products. I clicked on something and I was told that I can multiply my money in 1 month's time. And I went and put money. Now I have lost. You'll be shocked to hear a doctor told me he put 97 lakhs between October and December this year, he was told that his money had multiplied to 4 crores. And it turns out it was a total fraud and a total scam. We have to realize today that cyber crime has become a huge risk. It's a huge risk because investors should not get put off. As ARNs, as recognized, authorized, distributors of investment products and financial products, it is our bounden duty to warn our investors about all these get-rich-quick schemes, which are nothing but total zero. So this is really the message I want to give you today. Please, there are so many people who are also selling. I don't want to share because it could be bad I don't want to do it. The mutual fund distributors do sell other products, which are actually, again, get-rich products. May not be illegal, but an investor who has grown his confidence in that particular mutual fund distributor believes that mutual fund distributor is acting in your consumer's interest. And he believes, and she believes that if I put money with this mutual fund and go according to his advice, I will really be making money. Perhaps the commissions out of those products are much higher than what is getting out of the mutual funds or the insurance. I don't know. But why are these schemes being sold? I would say that's another area of caution. Yes, it is a legitimate business. After all, if I want to start a business raising money from my friends and relatives, there's nothing that under the Constitution that can stop me. But if I have somebody whom I've trusted because I've seen my wealth grow in the mutual funds, I'm tempted to also, invest in this product. So I really beg of you, 2 things be cautious about. Try to keep your sales to the recognized, legitimate, financial sector regulated products. Whether it's direct equity or whether it is through the mutual funds or whether it's through insurance or bank deposits or small savings, that's immaterial. The second thing is, please warn investors of not falling a prey to cybercrime. Personal experiences that I have seen in last 6 months, I've never seen 97 lakhs but I've seen people losing 15 lakhs, and I've tried to take it up with Reserve Bank and SEBI, and when I give the details of the bank accounts that those people have transferred funds to, it's wiped out. There is nothing available in those accounts. Those accounts are all legit accounts, all KYC matched, but we are dealing with some other bigger monster in this universe which we need to be careful about. And that is what I want to conclude and wish you all the best in your endeavor. May you prosper and may your clients also prosper. Thank you.